The main focus of my research has been to analyze how the law constructs the gender binary. And with the gender binary, I mean this assumption that women and men are the only two legal identities that exist, and that they are also complementary and static identities. So the main research questions, which has spanned over different fields of my research, is how the law defines who is considered a woman or a man, or who is considered as another legal gender for legal purposes. And I've analyzed this question in two fields of law. On the one hand, I looked at laws which pertain to civil registration processes, so for example birth registration, or laws which pertain to the official issuance of documents such as passports and how gender is defined on these documents. And the second field of law that I've analyzed is international sports law. So I've examined how international sports federations such as World Athletics define who can compete as a woman or as a man in sports competitions. One of the main motivations for my research has been the fact that the gender binary has long been treated as an ahistorical category or as a natural category of organizing society. And building upon feminist research, I aim to show that the gender binary is not an ahistorical category, but that laws have had a strong role to play in constructing this assumption that women and men are the only legal identities in law. And in addition to enabling a legal categorization between individuals based on their gender, the gender binary enshrined into the law also leaves very little space for expressions of gender outside of the binary or in a more fluid manner. And this specifically also negatively affects the rights of trans persons and also intersex persons, and specifically again persons who identify with a gender other than female or male. A transdisciplinary research approach is specifically relevant in my research on international sports law, for example my analysis of the Semenya case. So in this specific case, Mokadi Caster Semenya challenged rules by World Athletics which exclude certain women from selected athletic events if their natural testosterone levels exceed a certain threshold. And the case is currently pending at the Grand Chamber of the European Court of Human Rights. In my analysis of the case, I could show that stereotypical understandings of femininity and the gender binary really underpin the regulations based on which certain women are excluded from women's competitions. And I also showed that race played a role in the implementation of the so-called testosterone regulations, because they specifically disproportionately negatively affect black and brown women. And this is likely the case because the regulations are modeled upon white bodies and are underpinned by white understanding of what is appropriate femininity. So I think in this research on the Semenya case, I could really show how valuable transdisciplinary research is, which for example draws on feminist theories and anti-racist theories for the analysis of laws such as sports laws. My research has until now impacted two broader academic debates. On the one hand, I have researched the construction of the gender binary in civil registration processes such as birth registration, and several states are currently in the process of revising the binary gender registration at birth. And I think my research in this field has really also impacted discussions on the rights of transgender persons and intersex persons, notably also persons who identify with a gender other than female or male. And certain policymakers and lawmakers have already cited my research in this field. So for example, the Swiss National Ethics Committee has cited my research in its own reform proposal of revising the binary gender registration. And the second field to which my research has contributed to is international sports law. There's relatively little feminist, queer, and also anti-racist research on international sports law. And this is interesting because sports is actually such a popular activity across the world. Many people do sports either alone or together with other people, or many people really enjoy watching sports. So for example, the 2022 FIFA Men's World Cup in Qatar was the most widely watched event in history. More than half of the world population watched at least one game of the 2022 World Cup. So that means that sports remains a very popular activity, and in this way has also a lot of power to shape social relations and social understandings of what is appropriate behavior, including also gender appropriate behavior. And in this way, I think my research really contributes to a better understanding of how sports shape social norms, specifically gender norms. And equally, I think there's currently a momentum to consider human rights and gender justice in international sports law. It unfortunately took several scandals to actually bring gender to the forefront of discussions on sports, such as scandals related to sexual harassment in different disciplines such as football or gymnastics. But I think that these scandals actually only demonstrate the tip of the iceberg of a very gendered system in sports. So I think there are many questions related to gender justice or also racial justice in sports which remain unexplored. And I think interdisciplinary research which looks at laws such as sports regulations from a feminist and anti-racist and queer perspective can really make sports also a more inclusive place. So I found it really fascinating that the gender binary has for a long time been just considered as the status quo, which is organizing also social as well as legal relationships. And this has been the main motivation for me to look at different fields of laws and how they construct gender in a binary manner.